Hello, beloveds, and welcome back to this channel. In today's session, I'm being guided to discuss the unseen residents, the spiritual squatters we know as attachments. Not everyone has them, but it is all too common. And there are meditations and practices to evict these squatters, these spiritual squatters. And if you are just sitting to meditate and you become attacked in meditation, this is not something that you go to your general practitioner for. These are energy issues, and it gives proof that this energy is very real. And people start to feel things and touch on this and touch on that, and they start to freak out. And they get scared. And we're being guided to not be scared. There are many energy beings all around. And we have to become familiar with that. That not everyone has this ability. Don't be frightened by it, and familiarize ourselves with these different beings and energies. Sometimes they still bite at us, or we become comfortable with it and tell them, oh, well, just don't affect this part of my life. Don't be scared. That's the thing. When people become scared and they say, well, I wanted to embark on my spiritual journey and practices, but part of that practice is expelling and evicting these attachments. To fight these things, to fight the badness, the negativity, and push it all away until we become more familiar with the positive and the positive beings, surrounding ourselves with pious energy and protect it. Stepping back to see our ability to not have fear. So there has to be a cleansing that occurs and reoccurs and reoccurs and reoccurs. And can we all still have attachments? Well, we're always going to have our egos. So the other side of this is humility. And this authority that we are sending, authority that we are given, authority given that there is a sign of humility. And that is what we want from our realities. To stay cleansed and to continue our practices. And by way of Source God protocol, correcting what we consume. Even that in our meditations. And be in regard to these energies and the teachings of these energies. this becomes a continuous battle for us. We don't just put something on us and it goes away and runs away from us. It is a battle. It is a spiritual warfare, beloveds. Protecting ourselves by different avenues and means of protection is just one of the many tools that we utilize to fight and protect. This is very important that all these practices are necessary, especially for those of us who are guided to practice what we preach if we intend to teach. And for some of us, it's not even an if, it's a when. And the how is extremely important. And all of these practices are necessary. Everything for us to build up our energies, to build up our protection, to build up our alliances. And then one attachment may go, but 100 more that are stronger will stay and attempt to have authority over us. Just to show up with a brand new badge and say, okay, now everyone must get out. Not everybody is going to run. So as soon as we find this authority, this is where these attachments will attempt to continuously attack this authority. And a high percentile of humanity right now is not even human, given complete authority over to these attachments. When this authority is within us, our life becomes a spiral, a cycle of reaching for that higher authority to resolve these issues. And that is the purpose of this gift, this rare gift of understanding of Source. These attachments definitely have become the lords of vices in the 90th percentile of humanity, people on earth, just giving away that authority. Sometimes we don't know because of the confusion, the intentional confusion that is consistently spread. And this is why, to a degree, self-help is farce. This is where the old saying goes that a brain surgeon cannot perform their own brain surgery. How can we help ourselves? We are the ones who get ourselves in this mess to begin with these attachments. How are we going to help ourselves? That is not humility. No, we have to seek higher authority. Take their hand and their authority as they, if we see that our Sacred Heart is sincere and open, then they will lower and bring this energy to us. And it is far more supreme than these attachments. Our guides, prophets, some would refer to as ascended masters, ancestors of the higher realms. As a result of this higher authority, what happens? And then there is no rhyme or reason to say, get out. Because we put on this veil of protection, this hedge of protection around our home, this veil of protection around ourselves and our loved ones. And even so, these energies will try to approach. They know they're not supposed to infiltrate our premises. They know this. So they're going to start to do things to antagonize. So we must respond, well, we are going to start doing things to you if you do not leave. And then they must go, because they don't want any of this smoke. The divine remembrance and our daily practices, by permission of Source, of all that is, was, and will ever be. It really is that simple. But it also isn't that simple at the same time, because what is simple to the well-versed and the seasoned, those of us who have been forged through that fire over and over again, by way of numerous experiences, NDEs, OBEs, to know what it is to be burned by that holy fire. To know what it is to say to Source, just let me see a sign, just a hint of this humility. It's like, instead of giving a man a fish, we teach them how to fish, so that they may never go hungry. And then people are still going to do bad things. Still be wide open to these forbidden beings. Sometimes a talisman has no effect on the greater ones. This is where our Sacred Heart and the crown must be open to the Most High. So that they have less of an effect, leaving only a portion. And this is why spiritual warfare is a routine battle. And when it becomes routine, then these energies begin to take us more seriously, understanding our spiritual authority. And then next thing you know, our peers even want to know more about these practices. They want to know more about what they can do to fight the good fight and also protect. Be protected. Because when you come to this authority, you have to honor this authority. So, if the guides tell you, don't put your face on social media, and then you go and put your face on social media, what do you think is going to happen? Attacks. You feel guided to protect your children from social media, but then you put your children on social media. Then what happens? They become attacked. We begin to get messages that they're having problems because that understanding, that gift, that rare gift of understanding of authority is broken. And then you have to ask yourself, what type of authority am I even listening to? When our guides say, don't do it, but then we do it anyways. We're not listening to any authority, not any real authority. So then ours becomes lost. Watching what others do not respect within our spiritual authority. And when they know they can infiltrate it, they come back for more. But then they say, oh, there's no problem. There's no problem. But then we have to go back to that higher authority and change our mind. Repentance is that, a sincere change of mind. And accept that authority. Pay no mind to whether others are accepting our authority. We must do it anyway. To concern ourselves what other people are doing when we are being guided to focus on what we are doing. An assessment of our bounty is not about necessarily monetary concerns and relationships. That bounty is that connection with the Most High and that spiritual authority and these gifts that we must protect, but also honor with reverence by doing what? Good deeds. And not only for the reward, beloveds. This bounty is our measure of good deeds. Sincere, wholehearted. Trying with the best of our ability to resolve and correct issues for our love and our reverence for the Most High, for Source. For as much as we believe in Source, they believe in us. And with that knowing and that authority, then there is no reason to say, it's not working. We're having difficulties. Source is the prescription. The one we need to impose upon our lives and become a person who honors that authority. And what happens when we honor this authority? Our status increases And I'm not talking about social status here. I'm talking about our status with Source. Source status, beloveds. Then we become what? We prescribe to what? These energies are not something that we are meant to honor as their commands. Not calling them like gods, as it has nothing to do. They have nothing to do with being creator. And they have nothing to do with worship. Giving to creator we as the Rasul, the most generous messengers, we know we are not something to be worshipped. It simply means that we were anointed just like Musa to be a messenger. Not everyone will listen, especially with their physical ears. The people who disrespect and negate every command and every order or every guidance that comes, there is a monitoring in everything. There is a monitoring in everything by the Most High. Beloveds, I have found it a necessity to edit this video because after 23 minutes of speaking, I ran out of space on my device. So I had to stop what I was doing and do some clearing, so to speak. So I left off speaking on how we are being guided, but we are also being monitored. Every command, every order, but also every disrespect. Being monitored. And this authority, the more strong this authority becomes, there is spiritual ranking. And only Source, only Creator can be the one to determine when we rise with our monitoring. In what ways does this increase our energy? Everything, beloveds, is energy. So if we have 12 volts of a negative charge, we're not going to feel so positive. We're just not. We're not going to feel so positive. If we're filled with these negative charges all around and even in our actions and our deeds, where does that leave us? That attachment is left on us. And then it begins to govern us. It begins to make us speak negative talk. Our vocabulary changes up. Our diets change. All things begin to occur. All these things begin to occur. And now everything around us is influenced by that negative charge. By increasing our positive actions, we increase our energy. And we do this continuously. We regularly cleanse and focus on our practices and our good deeds. And then that charge is accounted for, and it begins to change. Something in our charge was off. Perhaps these attachments are accounts of, or failure to take account for how we conduct ourselves throughout the day. Then we submit ourselves to Source and ask them to draw down their highest white light to balance these accounts and purge out that negative charge. But this requires faith, a solid foundation built on faith. Because when these attachments come, it is not something where we can say, oh, well, let me draw some money from my account. And we just give them a generous donation and send them on their way. No, it is by faith. It is by faith. And when we give in faith, it is never wasted. And it will purge that negativity. Cleanse ourselves, cleanse our homes. And not allow these difficulties to consume us. But we must also, again, regularly practice expelling these energies. And then do good. When we do well, we become well. When we drink from the well of the pious and surround ourselves with that, it becomes written on us. And then we continue that flow. Upon those we encounter, whether they're physical and seen or unseen. And then any good deeds and charity and goodness, praying that we do, is like replenishing that well. And then, by way of the Most High, this well pours out and pours over. So when we put 90% good on ourselves, that means we have expelled 90% negative and put in that 90% positive, pushing out that negative charge and becoming lighter and cleaner. And then as we rise up, that light also cleanses us, purifying us. And then we pay it forward in acts of service. And then for those we encounter during these acts of service, even their heaviness is lifted. When we follow this type of system, not the sub-programming that we're being guided to unlearn, there is this continuous doing and knowing and good things in our daily accounts by being filled with that positive energy. And our system can only be as good as the housing and containment. But as much as we put good, that so we shall keep in this account, in the monitoring. And imagine those accounts being filled to the brim with goodness. And pour over our loved ones, our communities. Like a fountain of realities and blessings. Living continuously in good deeds. And every night or whenever we go to rest, we do our cleansing, we do our meditations, prayers, whatever it is that you do to call back your energy for the day and summon, command that protection with spiritual authority. Also forgiving in order to co-create with Creator by wiping the accounts instead of becoming those who say one thing and do another. We're being guided to not follow that system, but also understand with grace and mercy that this also was not, at one time, this was not their system. It was taught to them. And it's not because of us, but because of the communities they represent. But they can go and do good deeds and initiate that positive energy. And it becomes a regular practice for the sake of that connection with the Most High. And for the sake of those who are not doing good. We are being guided to forgive and inspire them towards goodness. This is our system. And it works to take away every type of negativity. Let's go into Wisdom of the Hidden Realms. And have a conversation with the cards pertaining to attachments as well as methods of approaching them. Possibilities of attachments that we are dealing with in humanity that must be cleansed out, evicted, expelled. Time to, with spiritual authority, evict the squatters. Yes, by taking small steps and asking for help. And the number 33. I'm feeling guided to zoom in on this card for a moment. The Camel Boy. So we're also going to be looking into the spirit totem of the camel. Discussing also the number 33. It's not a one giant leap for mankind approach. It is a gradual initiation and induction. Several of them. So we don't know always what we are dealing with firsthand. With this creature teacher present, what is it that we can learn from the camel as much as the camel boy? strongly associated with journeys and travel, as well as pilgrimages. It is still, to this day and age, an unusual concept. How many of us take or feel the need to take one? I already took mine in the late 90s. And yeah, surely I was able to just gather the resources somehow. It just came into play. As if though it were meant to happen during that time. But it's the long treks on these pilgrimages, these journeying that we embark on. That is where the keys are at. The journey is as much a part of the pilgrimage as the destination. And human life is much the same. For us, there is only one clear endpoint. And that is that transition and whatever comes after. So we're being guided to enjoy the journey. Trust the journey. Deeply connect with the journey. Willfully co-creating with Source. By pacing ourselves, we notice more. Our awareness expands as the precursor. And we become more resourceful ourselves through this expansion, stocking up with these reserves, this spiritual bounty that I was speaking on before I ran out of space on my device. And I had to, this is going to have to be edited, 2 videos put into one to make one. Interestingly enough, I've been trying to avoid that as often as possible, because my messages are sincere. I don't simply create just to create. There is sustenance in every action. Stocking up on joyful experiences, beautiful moments. Sometimes we go through this period of a drought, and this is where these attachments infiltrate and unpack. Sometimes taking a journey down memory lane. Not to be hung up by our past, but to rifle through it like a memory box. To become so well adapted by co-creating with Source. So this camel totem, this creature teacher, is really asking us to be resourceful and use all that we have available to us. Look at our resources, both internal and external. Be careful what we ask for and appreciate what we do have. And not compare ourselves to others. I think it's interesting that of all the animals mentioned in the Quran, dogs, horses, birds, locusts, etc., God picked the camel as the one we should reflect upon. It is not the most beautiful animal in the world. It is not the fastest or the strongest, not the most loyal or the most wild. But it is a little bit of all of those things, and that gives it its character and its worth. God combined all of these traits and many more to create an animal perfectly suited to fill its niche in the world. And when we reflect just on that, it can teach us a lot about submitting to God's will and accepting our own place in the world with more grace and tolerance. Thinking of the idea of being the jack of all trades versus the master of one. Very much a multifaceted being. Working to get reasonably good at many things. Not to be boxed in. And if we have many competing interests, we are being guided to not feel focused to only focus on one. Not feel forced to focus on only one, but instead introduce them. Incorporate our many skill sets. And this is where the manifestation through good deeds comes about. Some would say this is where the magic happens. What else is it that we need to hear at this time concerning attachments? The number 33. This angel number serves as a spiritual guide and protector. It indicates that we are being watched over. We're not just being monitored. We're being watched over and supported on our journeys. In repetition, encouraging us to maintain a positive outlook and keep our heart open to receive the blessings from Source. Also a symbol of harmony. Especially in love, harmony and balance, encouraging equal give and take of love in relationships, maintaining balance and harmony in love and treating each other with kindness and respect. It's also suggesting a period of healing and personal growth, encouraging us to move forward positively. Safe and positive journeys. Also serving as an acknowledgement for all of our efforts. Continuing to advise us to find balance between work and personal life, sharing our knowledge and expressing our creativity, and also fostering fellowship and teamwork. 33 is often linked to trinities and important blessings, signifying divine presence and favor. Otherwise, the gift of understanding and the anointing of being a divine messenger would not be something so rare. That rare gift of understanding would not be so rare. All right, this is a long one, so I am feeling guided to close this video here and open another one. And we will stay on the topic of these unseen beings infiltrating and squatting. Thank you so very much for tuning in. I hope these messages find you well, and brightest blessings.